Beneath the swaying boughs of the banyan trees that lined Vadakku Theru's tranquil lane, the evening's hush was interrupted only by the soft clop of hooves and the distant clangor of the cotton gin. Now silent, awaiting the morrow's labors, a row of bright yellow carriages stood sentinel near the estate's new whitewashed outbuilding, their drivers in khaki livery idling in patient congress as the misty air cooled. At the edge of the veranda, Nellie Knowles, the ever-cheerful field cook with a kerchief bright as mango flesh, peered past the iron gate, her laughter tumbling across the flagstones. "Mercy, Manfred, you bring that barrel of toddy and slow as molasses," she called, waving a wooden spoon like a scepter. Manfred Keeney, apprentice vintner and evening self-appointed social captain, grinned as he hoisted his prize. "I reckon good cheer's worth the wait, Nellie. Would you have us greet the gentry with empty glasses and bitter hearts?" Across the lane, under a blue-washed wall and sprawling tamarins, laborers in faded dhotis exchanged cautious glances and muttered scraps of gossip, threaded with hope and trepidation alike, as the first peals of supper bells rang faintly. Above it all, the scent of rain and earth mingled with the aroma of simmering lentils, and the whisper of change drifted, almost unseen, on the humid breeze. As twilight crept across Vadakku Theru's gravel thoroughfare, the lane thrummed with barefoot children darting between the ox carts and a gleaming new yellow carriage, a marvel from Madras, its lacquered beams bright even beneath the gathering clouds. Manfred Keeney, ever the arbiter of cheer, doffed his cap to the passing coach, lifting the barrel of toddy with a wink toward Nellie Knowles. "Mark my words, Nellie, one day we'll have a procession twice as grand for the night of the big event," he declared, drawing a ripple of laughter from the field hands clustered at the temple's edge, their gaze lingering on the colorful statue of some long-revered patron. Nellie, surveying the bustling scene with a cook's critical eye, crooned, "Ain't it something, Manfred? The way folk gather when hope's as thick as this mangala mist, each one dreaming of a seat at supper, or maybe just a moment's reprieve." At the scaffolding-bedecked outbuilding, a pair of young kin posted notices for the evening's assembly, while over the murmurs and rumble of distant carriages, the first strains of a devotional hymn drifted from the painted temple. The very air seemed charged, as if every soul, high-born or humble, felt the hush before a storm of reckoning, and wondered whether this night, beneath Vadakku Theru's banyan veil, the old order would hold, or if the world might change with the coming dawn. A hush had settled over the paved plaza at the heart of Vadakku Theru as dusk deepened, the last echo of rain shimmering in blue-tinted puddles, while the vibrant mural along the old outer wall, painted with bold scenes of Gandhi's defiance and distant lands, watched over the estate like a silent witness to the dreams and trials of its people. Nellie Knowles, trusty field cook and heart of the quarters, paused beneath the new gas lamp's glow, her eyes tracing the painted likeness of Gandhi striding resolute through London fog. "It's a fine thing, Manfred, don't you think?" she mused, voice carrying the warmth of simmering dal through the cool air. "To remind the young ones that change don't come from comfort, but from crossing oceans and standing firm in muddy fields." Manfred, ever the jovial skeptic, balanced a tray of battered tin bowls and replied, "Aye, Nellie, but tails on stone don't feed a hungry man, nor keep the overseer's rod at bay." From the shadowed threshold, a trio of laborers lingered, their reflections wavering in the puddles as they whispered of Gandhi's journeys, one daring to wonder aloud if such courage might kindle here, beneath the banyan's veil. Nellie, catching their gaze, offered a defiant smile and beckoned them close. "Come, lads. The world beyond these walls is changing, and I'll not have Vadakku Theru left behind in silence. Tonight, we fill bellies and perhaps sow a little hope besides." As the blue dust ascended and the mural's heroes marched on in painted perpetuity, the kitchen's laughter and the promise of a braver supper drifted across the plaza, gentle, persistent, and impossible to ignore. As the pale blue dusk settled over Vadakku Theru's coastal promontory, Nellie Knowles and Dr. Henry Tilling stood side by side atop the battered stone balustrade, gazing out at the restless waves that battered the black rocks below. a wild elemental hymn echoing the unease within the estate itself. Far out, shrouded in spray and the gathering mist, the great stone sentry of Thiruvalluvar towered upon his island, his hand raised in silent benediction toward the mainland, while the domed memorial beside him glimmered ghost-like beneath the sweep of the construction crane. "It's a queer kind of peace, Doctor," Nellie ventured, folding her arms against the stiffening breeze, her gaze drawn not to the monuments but to the clusters of market-goers and laborers huddled along the seawall, their voices hushed in anticipation, a peace that stands on the edge of old grief, like a promise waiting to break. Dr. Henry, steadfast and ever the uplifter, pressed a comforting hand to her shoulder. "These rocks have braved centuries of storm, Nellie. Tonight so must we. The world will not change at dawn unless we speak our truth before midnight." Behind them, Amelia Friendlygeist moved quietly among the children selling trinkets and shells, soothing restless nerves with a kind word or a lifted lantern, her presence a balm against the encroaching gloom. As thunder growled far off and the first lamps flickered to life along the walkway, a hush swept the gathering, a moment dense with hope and trepidation, while the ocean's roar and the stone poet's silent witness seemed to urge all assembled, high and humble, to step beyond fear's boundary and lend their voices to the tide of change rolling ever closer to Vadakku Theru's storied shore. Within the modest grooming hall of Vadakku Theru, where a single lantern's glow flickered against whitewashed walls and humble mirrors, young Master Vikas sat upright in the barber's time-worn chair, his brow furrowed in both anticipation and amusement as the venerable barber, old Muthu, whose steady hands had shaped the hairlines of 3 generations, draped a linen cloth over his shoulders and leaned in with the reverence of a priest about his sacrament. "Steady now, young master. The world's storms may rage, but a man's dignity begins above the neck," Muthu intoned, kneading Vikas's temples with calloused palms, eliciting a stifled chuckle that echoed off the mirrored walls. Near the threshold, Dr. Henry Tilling, sleeves rolled and spectacles perched on his nose, observed with a wry smile, offering, "The spirit must be well tended as the scalp, Vikas, for a clear mind is our sharpest blade in these troubled days." To which Vikas, endeavoring to mask his unease beneath bravado, replied, "And what of the heart, doctor? Will your next prescription be a tonic brewed from barber's hands?" Their laughter mingled with the scent of camphor oil, drawing the attention of Dylan Chantry, the overseer's clerk, who lingered by the door with encouraging words for both labor and lord. "Let every man, planter or ploughboy, sit for the shores tonight, for when dawn comes, Vadakku Theru's future may well depend on how plainly we face ourselves in the glass." Thus, beneath the humble roof and the wise tutelage of old Muthu, the evening's ritual of grooming became a silent act of renewal, a persuasive tableau reminding each soul, highborn or humble, that before the storm's reckoning, all must confront the measure of their own reflection. Within the modest barber's quarter of Vadakku Theru, lantern light gleamed off the well-worn glass of a single grand mirror, its surface reflecting a tableau both comical and profound. Young Master Vikas, swaddled in a striped towel like a recalcitrant heir, endured old Muthu's zealous ministrations, knuckles digging with the authority of a seasoned overseer into his scalp, while grimacing and stifling laughter in equal measure. "Mercy, Muthu, I came for a measure of dignity, not a new head entirely," Vikas protested, forcing bravado into his tone as the barber's hands worked oil and resolve in equal measure. To one side, Dr. Henry Tilling, sporting a soapy lather and the patient air of a man accustomed to tending wounds both physical and moral, looked on with a twinkle in his eye. "Take heart, Master Vikas. Sometimes a sharp cut is what's needed to let in new ideas. Let the old be shorn for the sake of the new," he teased, earning a round of laughter from Dylan Chantry, who leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, presiding over the ritual with the keen satisfaction of one who sees fences mended in unlikely places. "Careful, Muthu," Dylan called, feigning alarm. "If you take the sides any higher, the gentry will think Master Vikas has pledged himself to the revolution." The shop filled with the easy banter of men briefly equal, labor and lord, reformer and squire, each one's reflection caught in the wide glass as if daring the plantation's weary ghost to recognize the future in these modest acts of care. And outside, with every stroke and jest, the humid air thickened with the promise that tonight, on the threshold of storm and supper, even tradition might be persuaded to yield beneath the steady hands of change. The sultry night at Vadakku Theru's edge shimmered with 100 golden lanterns, their light spilling from the grand hostelries, the Ganga House and Bharani's Hall, which, beneath their proud new signboards, played host to the gathered gentry and all manner of wayfarer. Gleaming carriages stood before the porticos, liverymen tending restless horses as commerce and rumour mingled on the avenue. Along the gaslit walkways, the estate's kin and distant cousins, draped in linen and silk, strolled arm in arm, voices rising in spirited debate above the din of distant music and the sharp clatter of wheels. Dylan Chantry, ever the peacekeeper, wove through the throng, pausing beneath the blue and yellow fence to quell a quarrel between Nellie Knowles and a hot-headed porter over the price of a barrel lift, while Dr. Henry Tilling, his brow beaded with rain and determination, addressed a circle of field hands and skeptical onlookers near the Hotel Bharani steps. "Fairness is not a luxury reserved for the rich," he declared, voice ringing against the marble colonnade, "but the right of every man and woman who toils beneath this humid sky. When one is cheated, be it by coin or by whip, the whole estate is diminished." Nellie, hands on hips and cheeks flushed, piped up, "Aye, doctor, 'tis easy for the highborn to fret over a rupee or two, but none ought forget that even a poor man's dignity is dear." As the crowd pressed closer, emboldened by the night's fever and the storm's approach, Beneficence Grey slipped quietly among them, silver flask in hand, offering silent comfort and sharp-eyed counsel to those who nursed old wounds or grudges. Beneath the radiant glow, with rickshaws darting like restless spirits and distant laughter chasing away the last vestige of fear, the avenue became a stage for impassioned oratory and clandestine bargains. A crucible where, with every heated exchange, the estate's future was hammered, reshaped, and branded anew in the flames of collective will. Beneath the rain-glossed avenue of Vadakku Theru, where lantern light shimmered across puddles and the aroma of simmering spices drifted from the grand dining hall's golden windows, the night breathed with promise and protest alike. Manfred Keeney, flushed with the exertion of opening Beneficence Grey's latest fortified offering, and still rueful at the bottle's stubborn, dented cap, herded the gathering kin and labourers toward the steps of the Ganga House, where laughter, song, and clandestine arguments spilled through every aperture. "Come now, Nellie, don't tarry by the carriage," he called, waving a battered tin cup as Nellie Knowles, her skirt hem mud-splashed, replied, "You hush, Manfred. This street's slick as a greased eel, and I won't have another ankle twisted before the supper's served." On the opposite curb, Dr. Henry Tilling lingered in earnest discourse with Dylan Chantry beneath the awning of a humbler hostel, their silhouettes haloed by the glow of passing carriages. "It's not the quality of wine, Dylan, but the spirit in which we share it. Let tonight's misfortune remind us that progress, too, comes bottled with struggle," Henry intoned, prompting Dylan to chuckle. "Aye, doctor, but I'd wager half the house would trade any vision of freedom for a cork that actually yields." As a cluster of field hands and Priscilla Peacham drifted from the smaller inn, exchanging hopeful glances and stories of distant relatives, Beneficence Grey paused at the edge of the road, surveying the lively tableau with a knowing smile. "See how the road glistens, friends? Even after the storm, these stones reflect every lantern's hope. Let us gather, regardless of fortune or folly, and make this night a testament that Vadakku Theru's truest wealth is found in the hearts and laughter of its people." Thus, among wet cobbles and glowing windows, where class and custom mingled beneath the forgiving southern sky, the estate's folk found communion, not in the perfection of vintage nor the gold of the gentry, but in defiant, united celebration, a persuasive promise that together they might yet shape the dawn. Beneath a velvety southern sky, Vadakku Theru's avenue glimmered with the hush of late hours, the blue and yellow ironwork fence tracing the boundary between the revel and the restful, and the Tamil letters painted riotous upon the wall seemed almost to swirl in the lantern light like a secret code. Past the neon-lit threshold of the Mariner's Rest, a humble tavern whose glowing bar sign beckoned both field hand and kin alike, Dr. Henry Tilling stood in quiet congress with Dylan Chantry, their tones low but laced with laughter as Dylan gestured with a borrowed walking stick, mimicking the stately stride of some northern parliamentarian. "Another bar, Henry?" Dylan teased, eyes glinting. "Or shall we sample the wisdom of the night's philosophers instead?" Just then, Obadiah Vet, ever the itinerant merchant, appeared at their side with a conspiratorial wink, proffering a parcel wrapped in banana leaf. "A gift, gentlemen! News and nectar from the coast, meant for sharing, not hoarding. Let none say Vadakku Theru's hospitality slumbers before dawn." Across the cobbled way, a small cluster of labourers drifted past, murmuring in anticipation of the promised revels, as Beneficence Grey, watcher and quiet benefactor, leaned against the blue railing, surveying the tranquil bustle with an approving nod. "Let tonight's peace," Beneficence intoned, voice velvet and persuasive, "be not a mere pause between storms, but the first proof that a house so long divided can find joy in unity, where even the humblest barroom may become a council of hope and reconciliation. And so, beneath the watchful gaze of painted walls and glowing signs, the fellowship of Vadakku Theru pressed forward, highborn and low, kin and wanderer alike, each step a testament to the gentle, irresistible power of communal resolve. Within the cozy confines of Vadakku Theru's kitchen outbuilding, its walls aglow with lamplight, leafy curtains pulled against the humid night, a scene of gentle victory unfolded. Manfred Keeney, perched on a canary-yellow chair at the long wooden table, grinned as he tore open yesterday's news to reveal crisp pakoras still steaming from Nellie Null's pan. The table, a modest altar to late-hour camaraderie, bore the fruits of Beneficence Grey's bounty, a green glass bottle, its label boasting fortified grape, sloshed alongside a chipped tin cup of deep red, while Priscilla Peacham's handwritten poem and a ledger full of hopeful tallies sat nearby. "Drink slow, Manfred. You'll not outpace the night on spirits alone, nor outwit Nellie's masala," Dr. Henry called from the far end, his tone teasing but kind as he leafed through notes from the evening assembly. Nellie herself breezed in with a basket of fried plantains, clucking, "Eat and laugh together, boys, else the old veranda'll think us ghosts." The talk turned to the curious visitor who'd slipped in earlier. A man in search of a privy or the last word on freedom, wondered Manfred. And Priscilla, eyes bright with mischief, proposed, "Tomorrow, let's interview every wanderer who dares these halls, find what stories a midnight summons might yield." As the green bottle passed from hand to hand and laughter mingled with the night's hush, it was clear, though the estate's fate was yet uncertain, tonight hope was measured in shared food, brave toasts, and the simple, persuasive comfort of company. Each soul a bright note in the symphony of renewal, echoing softly beneath Vadakku Theru's storied eaves.